Fans of the Horus Heresy and Warhammer 40,000, thank you very much for joining me for today's 8th edition Warhammer 40,000 Newsflash, 27th of April 2017. So continuing on with what seems to be developing into a little mini-series where Warhammer Community puts a post up about 8th edition changes. I produce some high quality graphics. I tell you exactly what they've already told you, but then add some delicious cheesy extras to put some context and analysis onto these rules. Here we are with a second episode. So you'll be pleased to hear that from last night's episode, I've been able to increase the budget for this video, and we've been able to afford a ruler and some additional colours for our graphics. So yeah, who knows, if we keep this up, we might even get to some proper font as opposed to my scrawly handwriting. You'll notice how, unfortunately, although I've got a ruler here, I've got a nice slant on my writing here, so there's room to improve yet. Anyway, so a link will be in the description going to the Warhammer Community post, and it is entitled New Warhammer 40,000 Movement. It was posted on the 27th of April, so that is down in the description if you would like to check it out. What does this say about movement? First thing is reiterating something you have probably already gathered from a previous post about unit characteristics, and that is that all units will now have a movement characteristic. Gone are the days of every model moving 6 inches in Warhammer 40,000. The new average move is going to stay at 6 inches, so I believe a human, or certainly a space marine, and let's assume that is an average human. It's not an average human, but for movement purposes, let's assume it is going to have a move value of 6. They've given us an example of the Terminator Marine, who's going to be a little bit slower with a move value of 5. In the description on the post, they talk about certain units, e.g. our favourite fast-moving entertainer come lethal warriors, the Harlequins, having a higher movement stat. So this really opens up the mobility of the game. And it'd be interesting to see how high the basic movement stats go. Are they going to go 5, 6, 7, or we're going to see more dramatic steps up in speed for infantry, so maybe 9 inches or even 12 inches? And this is going to have a dramatic effect, I think, on the tactical play, because the consequence of this is the faster moving units are going to be able to go places quicker. So if they're a shooting unit, they can get to better shooting positions faster. They may be able to get flank shots on vehicles, although yet we don't know if vehicles have flank toughness or saving throw values. And if in particular, though, I think the big benefit is going to be for melee units. So I am strongly suspecting that our friends from the hive mind, the Tyranids, are going to have high value movement stats, or certainly their assault focused troops, e.g. the Gene Stealers, the Hormagaunts, and the rest of the dribbling mess. Is that a fair thing to call them mess? Sorry, the rest of the drooling hive body. Anyway, so that's kind of a big thing, and assuming that fire rates don't alter, that's going to allow those units to get into melee faster. So perhaps by keeping weapon lethality similar, although we don't yet, melee troops can be given an advantage by being given a higher movement stat. So that's the first thing. The second thing that the article tells us is that certain units will have a minimum move value, e.g. flying units. So to avoid stalling and crashing out, I assume this is, certain units will only, will have to move a minimum distance each turn. And this is essentially the same as what we've already had for craft that are swooping, or flyers that are swooping, let's say, have to move a minimum of, I don't know, 18 inches, but maybe up to 36. The useful thing here I see is, I see something approaching or moving towards perhaps some straightforward simple stat sheets. So you'll be able to have a stat sheet with all your dudes on it, or dudettes, or its in the case of the hive mind, and you'll have all your stats in front of you, and it'll be a very quick way to reference what you have, what your minimum move is, your maximum move, and I think that's a good thing. Yeah, so minimum move values, and then the final, the other main mechanic change, or the third mechanic change, is what they're now calling an advanced move. Now this kind of puts into rules what I think many of us possibly do already, and that is to say that if you want to forgo your shooting, you can now, they say, roll the dice to get some additional movement, and you do it as a single move. Let's take the example of our Space Marine with 6 inches of move. Let's assume, although we don't know this yet, let's assume they go for a D6 inch run move. you'll roll a d6, go to your movement phase and say, right, my squad here, Squad Tarquin, is going to run this turn. And you roll d6, you get a 4, you add the 4 onto the 6, you get 10, and you have a 10-inch move in one go. What does this do? Well, firstly, it makes the game easier to keep track of. It also should give more accurate miniature placement, because there is a tendency to get creeping errors when you move model once and then again later in the turn. It will streamline play dramatically, I think. It also puts players more in control of the tactical decisions they make with moving their models by presenting you with a total move value at one point of the turn. You won't then do a 6-inch walk move and hoping to get like 3 inches to get into cover and then only get 1 inch and be stuck in the open. You'll know straight away whether or not you can make that dash to cover, and that increases the controlling player's influence. And I like the idea of that. I never liked the idea of having completely random run moves. To be honest, I would have preferred a mechanic here that does away with the randomness. I would have preferred to have seen either just a straight double move for running, or a 50% increase on your standard move for a run. So taking our example of a Space Marine, a run move becomes 9 inches. I'm not entirely happy with the idea of a random element to run to the advanced move, but put that, by combining it into one, I think I can live with that. And overall, I think it's a positive change and much quicker and easier to play, and it'll cause much less confusion in games. Now they then finish up with their and there was one last thing, which I've put this, I've done this special underlined and. I like this bit because this allows me to break out my Warhammer 40,000 First Edition Rogue Trader book, and I always get excited when I'm allowed to do this. And what they say is 8th edition is going to reintroduce, well, they don't say reintroduce, they say that you're going to be able to make a fallback move, but this is reintroducing one of the oldest mechanics from Warhammer 40,000. And I've put yay, because it is yay, it's great. Now, I've got my reprint copy of Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader First Edition here, and I'm on page 30, and it says there is a rule section here which is called breaking off from hand-to-hand combat. So basically, any unit wishing to leave combat can do so. Back in the day, if you wanted to do so, you had to take a route check. If you pass it, you can then leave combat. As you were doing that though, the enemy could do what was called, they may strike a blow as they turn behave, or as me and all my mates call it after our gaming magazine from my old games club, a free hack. And that was taken at weapon skill 1. So if you decided to fall back, all your opponents will get one last hack at you at a very low weapon skill. Now, in the new iteration, in 8th edition, they're taking a slightly different approach to this free hack, or the consequences of running away from melee. What they've said is, it says, when you run away, you lose the ability to advance, shoot, or charge that turn. So all you can do is run away or fall back. It's a tactical advance away from the enemy. However, it does say enemies will be able to shoot at you. Now, from that, I'm not sure if that means they will get a free shot at you. So maybe something like an Overwatch shot, perhaps, or for those of you who play 30k, something a bit akin to the special ability of the Medusan Immortals, which is called Gun Them Down, whereby if your opponents run away, instead of pursuing them, you could opt to stand and take snapshots. It's not quite fully laid out yet, but that opens up a lot of tactical options there, I think, both in terms of a squidgy guardsman had just been charged by the Space Marine Dreadnought. I can't hurt it because we've only got sharp sticks. We need to fall back. And secondly, it's also useful if, let's say, as I have in my Mechanicum army, I've got my expensive Domitar class robot, which is configured for fighting heavy units in melee. If that gets attacked by a bunch of expendable Gretchen, it means I can now fall back and I am not tar pitted for the entire game. I see this as working both ways, both in favour of the assaulting units and also in favour of the defending units. And it will certainly, for me, I think it's a much more realistic mechanic in the game, because the current way 7th edition works is if you get stuck in melee, that's it, you're just stuck there and there's no way out. And I feel it's more realistic to be able to try disengage from close quarter combat, albeit exposing yourself to some attacks from the enemy as you do so. We don't yet know how this might bear on things such as characters fighting in challenges. May not have any challenges in this edition to worry about, who knows? And we don't exactly know if things are going to get a free hack or a free shot or what yet, but I think conceptually it sounds good, and it gives players new options, and it also prevents players from abusing certain units, i.e. the tar pitting tactic. I like the sound of that, and I like the first edition Origins as well. So that is everything for today's 8th edition Newsflash. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'll be fascinated to hear as always. The next Newsflash we're getting, or the next Newsflash I imagine, will be on the psychic phase. Thank you very much for watching. I'll speak to you next time, and goodbye.